Everyone. Today we are going to talk all about reading and specifically our beginning readers and the things that we have learned about teaching beginning readers. I have the awesome Amy Janjagava here joining us, and Justine Forelli is coming right on in. Yay. So glad that these two amazing women are joining us to share what are some of the things that they have learned about working with beginning readers. And you are going to get to hear all about that in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone. So excited that you guys are here, and we're talking about one of my favorite things, which is reading tutoring, specifically our beginning readers. So really exciting stuff here. We've got Amy Janjagava, we've got Justine Forelli, and I'm going to let each of them share a little bit more about who they are. So Amy, why don't you share with people who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Well, my name is Amy Janjagava, and I am in Wichita Falls, Texas. And I am a licensed dyslexia therapist. I have a little over 18 years teaching, whether I started my career as a kindergarten teacher and then moved into special education, then became a dyslexia therapist. And now I have my own business, Decode Learning Hub, where I provide tutoring, dyslexia therapy, and mostly my passion is those younger kids, that pre-K through second grade initials. So that's been really my main focus, but that is what I do.
And if we can catch someone at that earlier stage, it saves so much time for these kiddos later on, because the older they get, the bigger the gap gets. The bigger the gap gets, the harder it becomes to be able to close that gap. And so, yeah, if we can catch them right away when they're at that pre-K to second grade age, amazing things can happen. And we also have Justine Forelli here with us. Justine, tell people a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Justine, and I have been a teacher for over 12 years, but I've been tutoring full time now for 1 year. I just started last August with reading, and it's been really fun for me because honestly, I didn't really teach reading so much when I was in the classroom. I taught more writing. I was in a bilingual school, Italian immersion. And so I was the English teacher. So I didn't have a lot of time with them, basically. So I focused on writing because I felt it was more tangible. And frankly, also, I didn't exactly know how to teach reading at that time. I was not really totally sure exactly how kids learn to read. And so now this year, I've learned everything about reading. And the main thing is I realized I can teach reading, and it's really fun. And I also enjoy really working with the younger students for that same reason, is that I know what I'm doing, and you can see the results quickly. And also they're really still really fun at that age. And
They are.
Yeah. As opposed to teaching like the middle schoolers, I'm, never quite sure as much what to do with them. So I really enjoy these younger ones. And I am in Lafayette, California, and that's
Awesome. So glad that you guys are both here. Now, Amy's actually one of our speakers for our conference on Friday. If you haven't signed up, definitely sign up for it. It's a free conference, and it's called Opportunity, the Science of Reading for Online Reading, Writing, and ESL Tutors. So you definitely, if you haven't signed up, you definitely want to sign up so you can get to hear Amy, and you get to hear Timothy Rosinski, who's going to be speaking. And if you can't join us, there is a link so that you can get replays for the conference. Most of it's uploaded and ready to go. Awesome stuff. Super excited about this. But today we are talking all about those beginning strategies for kids that are really at that beginning stage of reading for students. So what are some of the things that you have learned about these beginning readers, Amy?
For me, and when I taught kindergarten, I realized there were a lot of things that were, for example, we have in Texas, the TEKS, there's certain standards that we have to follow. Every state has their own. And, I never understood the connection between like phonological awareness, specifically the phonemic awareness. There were a lot of PH words that I was like, I don't really know what they mean, and I don't know how they connect. And so it was just interesting that I was teaching, but I didn't understand the connection. I knew we were supposed to teach that, but then I also knew we were supposed to teach the other PH, which is phonics, but I never saw the connection between what's the point and why is it important. And so being able to not only go through the training for becoming a dyslexia therapist, it let me understand how these things connect together. And, I had never been taught that in a way that made sense, that, had purpose. So the thing that I have really learned, and that's kind of where my focus in my business has been recently, is that really having that solid foundation. And it starts before letters happen. I tell parents that if I have a word that's, plant, if a child can't blend together without the letters, you're making it even more difficult when you have a letter in front of you and you have to think of the sound and you have to articulate the sound properly. And so it's these little things that I think we just take for granted. I mean, I'm 39 years old, you don't really think about all of what's going on, but reading can be a difficult process, especially if you skip over something. And so I have learned taking a step back. And I always tell my students, in order to go fast, you have to start slow. And so we have to slow down and get the fundamental foundational stuff correct. And so being able to articulate sounds correctly, blend sounds correctly together, starting with just like 3 sounds, 3 phonemes, maybe expanding into 5. Then if they're able to hold that information and blend those sounds together, then we can add the next layer of letters and start understanding. And then you add the next layer of, oh, well, this letter says T, t, and this says, but when we put it together, something happens. It's a digraph, and so it layers on itself and it seems complicated. But if you take a step back, and that's what I've learned with most of my kids, we just kind of need to take a step back so they understand the fundamental part, especially with the phonemic awareness, so that it slides smoothly into actually reading with our letters and sounds. So
yes,
that has been a big and a huge, quick jump from total frustrational to on level in just a short few weeks, even for some of the kids. They don't all have to be dyslexic. I mean, every child can benefit from this.
Right.
If they are struggling, if they are dyslexic, they absolutely need something more explicit. But knowing how to intensify or ease back, depending upon your child, any child that comes across, they just feel empowered by it. So
they do.
That is definitely what I have learned.
It's so funny because I was just talking to my mother-in-law about this process, and I said, our brains aren't wired to read, but when I work with a kid who's struggling with reading, like somebody who's dyslexic or even someone who isn't dyslexic, I can actually rewire their brain so that they're prepared to read. And she's like, what? You can really do that? And that's what phonemic awareness is, right? Like that, it's the rewiring of the brain so that it can start hearing those sounds and putting them together. So many parents, I find, they say things like, my kid really struggles with being able to blend words. And it's like, okay, let's back up. Let's see if it could be because they just can't blend the sounds yet. Or is it they don't know the sounds of the letters? Like one of those two things is going on for them usually. And if we can figure that out, then you can start closing that gap faster. What are some things that you've learned, Justine, about these beginning readers?
Okay, so yes, and I just want to add a little bit on to me, because I had mentioned that, I hadn't really explicitly taught reading before in the classroom. And before I was in the Italian immersion school, I was actually in Waldorf. So that was my introduction to teaching, because it really resonated with me. And so I started when my first daughter was born. And that is a whole language approach. And so the idea in that is that language is learning to read is natural, and it's just going to happen naturally. And it could happen early. It could happen later, it could happen even when they're in middle school, but it's all natural. And I bought into that and I loved it because I love the whole Waldorf system. However, later as I made my journey, first into the Italian and then now just becoming a full-time reader, I switched. So the pendulum for me went from, buying into the whole everything Waldorf and then going this way now towards phonics. And so for me, just learning how to teach phonics and phonemic awareness has been really empowering. Again, just like how teaching writing was empowering for me, now I feel really empowered with this because I understand it. It makes sense. It's logical. I don't buy in anymore to that reading is natural and it's just going to happen. I mean, I do think that's possible for like a small percentage, but for the most part, I believe that about 80% of all children would need a more explicit and direct and systematic approach. And so that's why I love teaching this way, because it makes sense to me and I can see the results really fast too. Just like what Amy was saying, you can see it in a couple of weeks sometimes and it's amazing. And so that's pretty much what I've been learning this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like so important for, and there's always going to be this phonics versus whole language debate. I am just like, I'm so over it. I was over it when I was in college. I'm still just over it. It's like, look, when we know what the best practices are for learning how to read, we can begin to implement them and we can help kids. Now, kids have to be reading books in order to read. Do they have to read all phonics decodables if we're on the pet phonics side of things? No, that is going to be boring. And they're going to be like sounding out every single word. And they're going to sound like, here they are. They're like, at, cat, jump. Oh, there's an S. Jumps. Right? Like there has to be, I feel like, a balance at some point. You're providing all of the best pieces. You're providing books for them to read. You're providing success opportunities for them. There's some decodable books. There's some books that, bring in more interesting characters and topics and those kinds of things. And you're building in sight words and you're building in, vocabulary instruction and comprehension strategies. Like they all come together to play. And we need to make that happen. If I go solely just phonics instruction versus it being a part of my program, right? Like I am going to struggle with really getting that kid to be excited about reading. And so it's about providing all of these amazing opportunities for them that science has shown us are an important part. It's not about favoring one over the other. We do know that our dyslexics will benefit most from having a systematic and explicit form of phonics instruction. Yes. But as tutors, you guys, we also are not the first teachers. So they've learned some of those strategies. It's our job to find out, what have you learned? What do you still need to learn so that you can be effective? What are some of your favorite websites to use with your beginning readers?
Well, for me, I was always kind of hesitant on RAS, RAS plus Red. So all I've really saw in the school system was just kind of leveled readers. And so I was like, I don't know about that. But I started digging through and found, and like you said, I mean, this reading war of, whole versus phonics approach, like, me too. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to do what's best for each child. Each child's different. And so, some things that you don't have to go hard and heavy on explicitly, some things the kids just naturally get. Even with my children that are dyslexic, like they sometimes just naturally get certain digraphs or certain combinations. Like we don't have to go real heavy into that. But when we do need to work on it and we need to become automatic on being able to decode quickly, I love to work with words in isolation. Teaching them that explicit rule, working with words in isolation that have that same applied rule, finding a decodable that gives them ample opportunity to read within text, but then also moving to a connected text, moving to something like a leveled reader, being able for them to experience vocabulary and enrichment because, they need that. And as I went through RAS Plus, I started digging and I found the leveled readers. But then I also found the decodable. They have decodable passages, they have decodable texts, they have decodable books. Like, it is amazing for me. And it's one of those things that I always tell people, you can't, if you are unsure skill wise and training wise on how to approach a word, like, you could put a word in front of me and I can help any kid read that word. I can get them to that point so that it becomes innate in them. But that's because of skills and training. It's not because of a program I bought. But once you know what you're looking for, like Raz Plus has exactly the resources and the materials I need to support the skills that I have in my training in order to teach a child. If they're not dyslexic, but they do need a more explicit bit of information. I love Florida Center for Reading Research, fcrr.org. It's research-based, and I suggest this to parents all the time. But even for tutors, being able to find certain phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, they break it down into those different, components of reading. I've really enjoyed that. And education.com is another thing that I've enjoyed to kind of break up the monotony when I'm working with the kids, because we're working on really hard word work and they're kind of exhausted, but they know we'll play a little game on using vowel consonant E when they're finished after my instructions. So that's kind of how I've been able to break it up. But they're, you can just tell they're tired. They're like, do we really have to go through these, high frequency words? I'm like, you know what, when we're done though, you're going to be prepared to play a game. Yeah. And then we kind of years and little ones, when I taught kindergarten, it's 1 minute for every year that they're old, attention span wise, you break it up. And so if there are 5, 6, every 5 or 6 minutes, you need something to kind of break it up, give them a little brain break, but still learn. So those have been the things that I've really kind of gravitated towards mostly when it comes to online tutoring.
Have you found Have you found any other resources, Justine?
Oh, I also use the Reading A to Z and the Raz Plus, and I do have the Head Sprout, and so I do like that for these beginning readers because it's, we call it aliens or robots, for different names for the different kids, and so it's kind of like they think of it as more of a game, so that's kind of like what we do at the end, is like that. And I also encourage them to do it on their own, not just with me, but I do like to have it to do it together, and then I can just kind of see where they're at too. And then I have, let's see what else. So again, WordWall, I've been using that a lot lately. I just kind of discovered it recently. So it's really fun for me still. And especially for like sight words, for reinforcing those. Let's see. So what else do I have for this? I do have also, I got the vocabulary part that comes with Raz Kids. And so I like that for like playing vocabulary games at the end, especially love like memory match games.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the memory match as well. That one's a lot of fun for them.
And then other than that,
you know what? One of my students the other day, I was playing the vocabulary memory match with one of my students, and he said, he goes, I was able to do that in 1 minute and 52 seconds. Can you beat me? I'm like, I don't know. Good question. So we set it up, and I played, and we saw if I could beat him. He beat me. But it was a lot of fun. He's like, oh, and it totally boosted his self-esteem. He's like, I beat you. Oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, you sure did. But yeah, it's about making it fun for them, but at the same time, putting in those fun activities that are going to enhance the skills they need in order to be fluent readers, not just throwing in fun activities that will not impact the reading, and knowing what is the difference between fun and educational and meeting the needs of our students. So I am so excited, you guys. In July, Learning A to Z is putting out a new product called Foundations A to Z. And they're actually going to be sharing about that at our conference on Friday. And it seems really awesome because it's going to be like the shorter type of videos that you do have the ability to build on into your students' instruction, like exactly how to sound out words or like how to work with the CH blend. It's got little mini lessons, and you can pick and choose which ones you need when you need, and you can put it inside of the students' stuff for them to view, or you can use it right away with your student that you're working with. And I'm like, oh, I cannot wait for that to come on out. That is going to be awesome, because I also use Headsprout. Love it. It's a great program. But I think I'm going to love Foundations A to Z even more. So super excited about that for when that definitely comes on out. What have you guys learned about teaching beginning readers online? Because for a really long time, there was this belief, and I feel like the belief came from people who hadn't taught reading online is really where the big divide was. Because I had been teaching online, and I found that my beginning readers could still learn online even better than they could in person. And so that's because of the strategies that I learned to start implementing with the online, and I was getting some really great results. But I felt like people who had never done online, they're like, oh, no, you can't teach reading. No, it can't happen. What have you guys learned about teaching beginning readers online?
For me, I was teaching in public education, and I had put my resignation in to start my own business privately. And then 2 days later, good old pandemic showed up, and so I had to finish out my final teaching career year online. And that, I think, was traumatizing because you just kind of were thrown in trying to figure something out. And so at first I was really resistant of that notion of trying to do something online. Sure. Because of my only introduction to the experience. So now, though, because of Texas has crazy weather, we have ice, and we've had a couple of ice days, and my kids weren't able to come see me. So we decided to start trying online. And my little ones, that when they come here, they kind of want to touch everything. I have my office, and so, it's cute and it's kid friendly and stuff, but they want to touch everything and they want to ask about everything because it's a new environment. And, I only see them once or twice a week. But when it's one-on-one, I was thinking, oh, this is not going to go well. And so, but they were sitting at the kitchen table at their home, and they were fully engaged with me the entire time. And even the little ones that usually go, is it almost time for me to leave now? Because, can I go look at your, stuffed animals over here when we're done? When it's usually like, they just are ready to like scoot out, online. I was like, okay, bud, that's it for the day. You did amazing. He goes, we're done. Can we do one more book? And it's just like, what's going on? But I mean, we are, even though it feels distant, it's not. Like with Zoom, I mean, I literally feel like we're nose to nose with the kiddo. And when they get control of the mouse to be able to play a game, it's just, they just feel super cool about being able to use the computer. And I even had one come back after the ice storm, that we were able to do face to face. He goes, can I just do this at home? Like, I really like it better. I like the games better at home. And, I think families enjoy it too, to get to see not only their child working, but also to see that it is working. Yeah. And, they may have other children, and, having to load up a whole carload to come see me for a certain period of time versus, 2 30-minute sessions or 45-minute session, depending on, their age and attention. But a lot of my kids, I've learned, give them some new information, let them practice with me, then play a game. Give them some new information, practice a little bit more, give them a game. Being able to go through that cycle with them, they are far more engaged. Even my babies that are, ADHD, and, they are engaged the whole time. And it's been really a surprise. I knew I could figure out, but I didn't think it would go that well that quickly.
Yes.
As it did. So I'm a true believer.
And whole class online versus a one-on-one student that you're working with is a completely different experience, right? Just so you had coming from that classroom where you're kind of forced into like putting everybody online. I can't imagine. What were you teaching kindergarten at that time?
Oh no. I had dyslexia there, but I had about 30 kids that were all different grade levels, and trying to have 5 or 6 in each group was just that was not, it was just not.
No. And here's what, like, I was always told in the school system, the research that I have read, small group is just as effective as one-on-one. And as soon as I started doing one-on-one, I'm like, Who did they do the research on? That is the most bogus thing I've ever heard of, unless we're talking about like program fidelity. Like, okay, I have this program, and whether I teach this program specifically the way it's designed, lesson to lesson, word for word, to 5 kids or 1 kid, I'm going to get the same exact results at the end. That I can agree with. But to say one-on-one instruction is just as effective as small group instruction is a total lie. Like my one-on-one kids, like they soar, they fly, and it's so amazing. I love it. Justine, what have you learned about these beginning readers and teaching them online?
I agree. Yeah, it's actually easier than in person. I also came from the pandemic when I went teaching the whole class online, and it's very different when you just have one-on-one, because when it's whole class, you can see certain people that are not paying attention and are on a different screen. But when it's one-on-one, you're just engaged with them and them only. And it's interesting for me because I actually, I have some people that I do both. I do online, and I also meet at the library on Saturdays. And so it's so much better just to do it online. And actually it's basically almost the same thing too, because I bring my computer, I'm doing the same things. It's just that I'm in person with them instead of online. And in the library, there's because we're in private rooms, there's not a lot of distractions. But it's just easier for some reason, I think, through the computer. And because I have 2 boys that do definitely have, focus issues and that kind of thing. And it's actually not easier in person. It's easier online.
Yeah, I feel like our kids' brains are actually wired for this kind of an interaction. Mm-hmm. And it works so well to go from one activity to the next activity and do what it is that you need to do online. Not only that, but it's like you're in the comfort of your home. They're in the comfort of their home. Mm-hmm. There aren't the distractions of your home that will lead them away. They're used to the distractions of their home. And so that does not usually bother them so much. They're used to, if they have a dog or if there's a baby or if there's, all these other things, they're not noises that distract them because they're used to it. And my ADHD kids, if it's too loud in their environment, they'll just tell their family, look, guys, I'm doing my tutoring right now. You're going to need to quiet it down. I love it. I'm like, yeah, you go tell. But like, they wouldn't be able to say that if I had noisiness in my house, right? If I had my dog barking or if I had, my kids coming in and out, they wouldn't be able to have that like direct conversation with those people and just be like, look, the noise of the dog is just like stressing me out right now, or any of that kind of stuff. So it works well. So it works well with our ADHD kids, our kids that have dyslexia, our kids that are beginning readers. They do so well. I have one little guy from Peru that I work with, and he's now on vacation in Nicaragua for a few months. And I'm just like, how cool is it? Like, it does not matter where you're at. You can still do the instruction. How cool is that? I love it. Amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Anything else that you want to share with people about teaching reading to our beginning readers?
My thing, and with being parents or tutors or teachers or whoever, when I first started out, I remember, what I learned to teach was enough, it seemed, for most of the kids. But then when you get to the kids, you're like, but if they're not getting it the way that I know how to teach it, how do I approach it differently? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a question of, I need some more skills. I need some more training. Like, I need to learn a little bit more. You don't have to like throw whole language, if you want to call it, package out the window. Like it's necessary and it has a place. Everything has a place. Vocabulary, comprehension, fluency, phonics, and phonological awareness has a place. Mm-hmm. And if there's an area that you're uncertain about, rather than just pursuing like a program or a book or something, to just read verbatim, like I use a program and it's explicit and it's research based and it's wonderful, but it's that mindset of being able to shift to being diagnostic and knowing when. And so my suggestion is to just find those areas that you're a little uncertain about, or like for me, I didn't understand how phonological awareness connected to reading. Like, what was the point? Like, I know it's in there, it has a point, but I didn't understand the point. And so pursuing the knowledge and the skills and the training to empower you, then your world of all these online opportunities and resources and websites, I mean, it's just like having an entire library at your fingertips, because now you know how to implement those things because you have that skills and training. So if you feel a little uncertain about something, go to things like this conference, go to things like webinars, go check out every single video, Joanne has made. Like, I mean, just keep digging for stuff, or find somebody that, might be a little ahead of you in a certain area, and find mentors and find resources, because that, I mean, there's nothing more amazing than feeling empowered that any kid that's brought to you, that you can help them accomplish reading. And if you're not sure about a section, then just go get some skills. There's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. Just learn more. Like, these are the areas that science has shown us are things that kids need to master in order to become great readers. And so, if there's any one of those aspects that you don't feel confident in, anybody at any age can struggle with any of those areas. I've even ran into men that are 50 years old with dyslexia, still haven't developed their phonological awareness because nobody knew that was something they needed inside of their training, right? And so it doesn't matter. Like, you find where are those little gaps in those areas, and you can close those gaps so much quicker than any curriculum in and of itself can do. So empower yourselves, you guys, because we all have the ability to be able to teach beginning readers, but we might not know all of the things that we need to know in order to do that. So great advice, Amy. I love it. Any other thoughts, Justine, that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also, I think that's the one-on-one connection. And I think that's the piece that is so great about it all for these kids, because it's just so much different in the classroom, especially with so many things that they have to do these days besides, reading. There's a lot going on in there. And so I think any kid who can get some time to do some one-on-one is really going to go a long ways quickly.
It is. Awesome. Well, thanks, ladies, for joining us. So on Thursday, we're going to be talking about our comprehension, like, how do we help kids that are really struggling with comprehension? So definitely come back, join us on Thursday. And then, of course, on Friday, we have our conference called Opportunity, the Science of Reading. Definitely take a look at that inside of the description. There is a link if you haven't joined. Definitely join us. It's going to be amazing. And we've got free prizes. I've created swag just for the event that I'm going to be giving away. So definitely come join us. And thanks for joining us today. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.